name is Lloyd Deckers. I live in Brentwood Bay. I went to elementary school with Don Tom. My question is related more to the whole LNG issue rather than the Saanich Inlet project specifically. And my question is mainly for Ian Finn because he had his business and chemistry background. Has anyone suggested as an alternative to LNG distilling hydrogen from seawater? Hydrogen is a combustion fuel that is climate safe and non-toxic. It does, however, explode, so a hydrogen refinery is not suitable for Saanich Inlet for obvious reasons. And the Malaysians might be open to hydrogen because if the oceans rise, they are literally sunk. Distilling hydrogen from seawater does not have the demands on fresh water supply and energy infrastructure as fracking. Distilling hydrogen from seawater is done at an ocean port and it does not require a pipeline to start production. The waste projects of distilling hydrogen from seawater are oxygen and sea salt, which compared to a lot of the waste products from fossil fuels is comparatively benign. On the subject of fresh water, I sometimes say to my friends, a good reason to keep the Queen as head of state is that the British don't want our fresh water. So words to remember.
I think the developments in fuel cells that use hydrogen as its source, as its fuel, have recently been fairly dramatic. The problem with hydrogen, as you pointed out, is it is explosive. And ever since the Hindenburg disaster, people have been very loath to use it for very well anything. The distribution of hydrogen, because it only liquefies at 3 or 4 degrees above absolute zero, or minus 260 some degrees, it's very difficult to arrange a distribution system, and that's a big problem. To make an industry out of generating hydrogen would be dramatically difficult. To generate it on a small scale and use it for power is generally possible, and the most promising use is fuel cells. But those have not been adopted for general use, and it would appear that in general the world is going electric, the world has gone digital, the marriage of the two, and the use of digital networks to control and flow power around that is generated by renewable sources is where the world is going. If BC had an industrial policy, it would concentrate on the supply of technology to do that, to monitor networks. We are so poorly connected between provinces who have lots of hydropower in Canada. We have much better connections north-south than we do east-west. That's something that I hope this government will change and will adopt. There is absolutely no reason why in BC, with the rain that falls in the wintertime up in those mountains and the sun that pours in during the summertime, that we should be using a single molecule of a fossil fuel to do anything.
Where is hydrogen transportation and storage compared to where natural gas was, say, 75 years ago?
Suffering from the transportation difficulties. How do you take gas and make it economical to distribute it on the highways and have pumps that pump a gas that won't liquefy and condense into a small volume until you get it 4 degrees above absolute zero? That's very expensive and very dangerous. I think the hydrogen era will, on a large scale, not succeed.
I just want to add a piece of information to what Dr. Finn just said. The federal budget this year, I think, regarded only as a placeholder. It's big money if you or I would win it in the lotto, but as a context of federal budget, it's basically loose change. But they've put $2 million over 2 years into a study of how we improve our east-west electricity grid so that we can enhance our renewables and shut down fossil fuels. So there's a placeholder in the federal budget, $1 million a year for 2 years, but one of the federal provincial working groups on climate is specifically looking at this issue of how do we get our east-west connectivity to be modern and efficient and fossil fuel-free.
I'd like to add one more factor, which is to electrify, to power electric cars for every vehicle in BC will not require that BC Hydro generate an additional amp. There is sufficient power to make that happen for all of BC. If you all buy electric cars, we will not
be It's another incredible boondoggle, and I think people have to realize, even if you only care about your electricity rates, you don't want it. And it's pushing all the alternative energy producers out of the province. So I think it's really important to put that as part of the picture. And I think we also have to stand together on that, but stand together to support the people in the northeast of British Columbia, especially First Nations, who are fighting the fracking, which is destroying everything. You wonder about the moose and the caribou populations. Well, just have a look. And the earthquakes and what is happening. We can't just look at Steelhead. We have to stop that. We have to stop the one in Howe Sound as well, and we have to stop many others. But we have to stop fracking. This is not good for our climate, for us. I think most of what I want to say is that, yes, let's stand together. We in the room can start. We're going to have to play harder ball with this government. We have to be much more outspoken. And I had a good talk with quite a well-known journalist yesterday about it. And he said, we've got to fight. Because we're being told lies, and a lot of the people do not realize that they're being told such lies. Why haven't they asked questions about LNG and all the promises? You know, and our forests are being destroyed at an unsustainable rate with no return to the public. Lowest stumpage rates in the world. That's an exaggeration, but who knows? But they're very low, you know, from $1, you know, $1, 27 cents a cubic meter, $1.35 a cubic meter. This is rock bottom rates, and we're destroying the last of what we have of the old growth. So this is a government that's totally corrupt, and we need to move forward. And we're going to stop Steelhead LNG. That's a no-brainer. And let's move forward on the bigger picture. Thank you.
Meeting, and it was 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to suggest that we take the last 3 questions at the mic. And, oh, you have a question down there, Steve? There's one down there. Okay, so we'll take the last 4 questions. I don't know if the panel will mind, I apologize for questions. If we take them all as a group, and I ask the panelists to make notes on the ones they think they want to answer, then we can do a wrap-up where we try to answer all of your questions. I know we have to be out of this room, and I also don't want you to miss the chance to stop at the Tanner's book table, because they've been very wonderful to come sit up here. So I apologize, and I'll ask the 3 ladies at the mic and the gentleman at the back, and that'll be our final 4 questions, and then the answers will come.
Hi, my name is Pam Tobin, and I live on the Saanich Inlet. So this project would not be in my backyard, it would be in my front yard. And I strongly object to it for all the reasons that everybody has presented, the environmental, the traditional native territories, the economic, the social, the recreational impact. I'd like to take aim at a slightly different force, and that is the company that is behind Steelhead LNG, which is Williams. And I attended a meeting earlier in the spring of an organization called PROW, which it's got a weird acronym, but it's about development on the waterfront. And there were 4 people from LNG there who we were allowed to submit questions to, and then they would answer the questions, but we weren't allowed to say anything. And so I appreciate this opportunity where you can understand our thoughts and our feelings. My point is that I did some internet investigations, which we all can easily do, about Williams, which was the company that was partnered with LNG in their brochure that they presented. Williams' safety and compliance record is absolutely abysmal. They have been charged and fined for all kinds of environmental degradation, fires, leaks, explosions, deaths, failure to comply with their own regulations, failure to comply with federal and state regulations. The list goes on. The worst one is falsification of data, which means we cannot trust this company. We cannot allow our government to shake hands with the devil, because that's what they do.
I live in Victoria, but I spent 5 years of my life fighting the Bamberton project in the 90s. It was nothing compared to this, but we won, and I believe we will win on this one. But my question is, because I have so little faith in the current government, and I don't have a huge amount of faith in what the NDP will do should they form the next government, and given that Trudeau has promised a new relationship with First Nations, and the Site C and the Saanich Inlet are all treaty issues. Any thoughts on strategy for pushing the federal government to step in and do what they have to do? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shimama. I've been fighting the Shawnigan Toxic Dump for 4 years now, and I switched over to LNG because I had and that just kind of set me off. My thing is, I want everyone to know that Steelhead LNG has an office in Mill Bay in the Tim Hortons Mall. Now, this office is currently got no signage. It's been there since November. They have no signage. They recently frosted their glass because I went up and did a video in front of their office saying, "This is Steelhead LNG. Please come and talk to them," because this is part of their public process. If people don't come and talk to them and say, "We don't want this," they think it's a thumbs up. So the thing is we all have to go and say, "We don't want this." So what we've been doing is, it's not vandalism. I use chalk. And I write things on their sidewalk and in the parking lot, and I use sticky notes, and I ask them questions, and I stick sticky notes through the window. And then they have to answer my sticky notes either by a phone call or an email. So I gotta say that on Tuesday morning, before I came to the LNG meeting here, I got a personal phone call from the RCMP, from Sydney North Saanich, asking me that what I was planning, and they just wanted to touch base with me to see what I was planning on doing, because they knew I was coming to this meeting. So Steelhead apparently was concerned for public safety. So I don't know how scared they are of sticky notes and chalk, but I left them in my car. So if you have a chance and you're driving through Timmy's in Mill Bay, just go to the end, and there's a hairdressing salon in the middle called Down by the Bay. They have 2 offices on either side. You can't see anything. The doors are locked, and it's frosted glass. So stick a sticky note on their door, write some chalk. It's easy. You can get at the dollar store, and let them know that we don't want them here. Thank you.
I've lived on the Saanich Peninsula and around Victoria for nearly 70 years, and 30 of them in North Saanich. My background is marine, and one of the things I find completely astonishing is the idea of routing these LNG tankers through a busy ferry area from Harris Straits into the Saanich Inlet, with more ferries, I think, than almost any other terminal around here. And these are restricted waters to begin with. The main key feature of this whole effort seems to be energy, and I'm glad that a few people have brought up alternative energies as a key feature. What I do find somewhat astonishing is that we have a provincial government who really seems to be acting as a salesperson for overseeing business. raised the question, what is the purpose of government? I really didn't get very many answers. Essentially, the BC government was on the right track, I think, with its buses for BC Transit using hydrogen, but now they're selling them off, all 20 of them. The main problem was they were having to buy the hydrogen from Quebec and had it trucked in once a month, I think once a week actually. But alternative energies really seem to be the answer. We're going to have to get off our carbon-based thinking.
Thank you very much. So we're going to try to, I'm going to just go from Andrew to Chief Tom to Owen, and I'll close with any part of those wonderful last 4 comments. I'm so tempted to dive deep into their phobia about chalk. Andrew, you go first.
Well, it's amazing what you can do with sticky notes and chalk. I would just encourage all of you, this is both your front yard and your backyard, to continue this fight and to make it a larger fight. This is a fight not just about a corporation that wants to do something very bad, very cheap, very wasteful, very dangerous in your front yard, but it's also about a government that thinks it's okay to perform this way. And this is really a crisis in democracy for this province. And you've been given an opportunity to shine a bright light on this. Do so.
Firstly, I would like to thank the young lady who brought up Shawnigan, and we have an event in Startup on Sunday, and I just want to pass along not only my appreciation, but the appreciation of Grand Chief Stuart Phillip of Union of BC Indian Chiefs, who very clearly said, you know, if it wasn't for our women who were up there fighting for our waters, where would we be? And absolutely, you know, it was our women who were up there who were fighting with the truck drivers, and I want to thank them personally as well. Thank you. And thank you to the men who were there as well. The question of how do we get organized here in BC, and I really liked that idea. When Grand Chief came to the community, he said, and I really like his idea as well, is we need to get organized before the next election, before May. We need to get organized, not just before, but we need to start now. And we need to get organized now, and we need to, so, you know, go back to your constituencies, be involved. And what I told my community about when they questioned, you know, what do we do with this LNG? I told them, you know, we need to get organized on the community level. What are we going to do? How are we going to get our membership involved? Because they need to be involved. And I always say this to our youth, you know, when something like this is proposed, or we look at the desecration on Grace Island, and forgive me, but I always tell our youth, you know, you need to feel pissed off every time something like this is proposed, or you feel pissed on, because either way, you need to feel angry whenever something like this happens. So we need to get organized on the community level, we need to get organized on the political level. Who are we going to put pressure on? And what I've said to my community is we need to get organized on a legal strategy also. So we need to, and I said it's not doing one or the other. I said all of them have to be going full force. I said because they have money and lots of money that they're putting towards a strategy, how they can be successful. They don't stop, they don't quit. You know, they're funding their dreams, and you know, we have to have that same mentality. Is, you know, they're not taking a break on this, neither should we. And I think, so I think moving forward, and it was a suggestion of Grand Chief that, you know, maybe let's be in touch with everyone who's fighting the same battle, LNG and oil, and, you know, let's get organized ourselves amongst First Nations. So I really appreciate that comment as well, and certainly we'll be extending an invitation, and I think a rally to the legislature would be a great idea. So I'm committing to holding more rallies, more protests, and if that means CSIS and RCMP are going to be watching and spying on startup, because the federal government has in the past spied on us, and they've admitted it that they spied on startups. So it's nothing new to us. I'm fine with them looking at my emails. But for me, I am committed to making every possible way known that we are opposed to this. We are not going to give up on this fight. We are going to do it together with you, and I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Just a couple of brief notes. This week, the provincial government went to court to order the 10th city and the legislature lawn off the grounds on the basis that it was a fire risk. The same government thinks nothing of putting 6.9 million tons of flammable gas in your residential neighborhood. The lady pointed out Williams is a pretty poor record. As recent as last summer, they managed to explode a pipeline. The shrapnel went through an LNG tank, and the whole area was evacuated for 2 miles around. That's the most recent transgression. There are lots of others. Federal involvement. How proud were we all when our minister went to Paris and made that statement that Canada is back? We have to hold them to account, because since then we've had an LNG plant approved in my territory, Howe Sound. We have concessions given to LNG in terms of accelerated capital cost appreciation. We have a pending decision at Petronas, which, if it goes the wrong way, will totally belie our promises made in Paris. We have to keep the feet to the fire for this federal government. Comment on foreign investment. It's even more criminal when you realize that in attracting supposedly foreign direct investment into Canada and inviting Petronas to be here, you wonder why the very first thing Petronas did was to get 4 Canadian banks together and ask to borrow $15 billion. That's not them investing in us, it's us investing in them. And that's not right. I leave you with the words of Jacques Cousteau, who said, "Protect what you love."
I just want to share a bit of what I see politically happening with the Trudeau administration and urge you to do some actions. Number one, I do think Justin Trudeau meant what he said when he went to Paris, and I do think Catherine McKenna meant what she said. I have deep concerns about the senior levels of the bureaucracy in the federal government that hasn't moved since the last government. I'm not saying they're conservative, holding partisans, but they kind of liked what was going on before. And the thing I hear when I lobby every single minister all the time, you have to say no to kindergarten. You have to say no, not one more permit to sightsee. You have to say no to Petronas' project on Lake Island. You have to say no to wood fiber. You've made a mistake. We have to regulate. We have to control. We have to go off fossil fuels. Why do you keep subsidizing LNG? And what I hear back, not loudly and not from any specific person, but the vibe I get is, well, we can't say no to everything.
Bullshit.
So we need to keep saying yes to the things that make sense. We need a lot more awareness in Central Canada of the facts of the case here. I told a very senior reporter the other day, that fracked natural gas have the same carbon footprint or higher than coal. It's the first we've heard of it, and if I told you it's named, you'd be shocked. So one of the things you all can do, you have a lot of wonderful observations here today from lots of different angles. The business case, that's a really good one for a letter to the National Post. Are these people crazy? This wouldn't last 15 minutes in the boardroom. The Globe and Mail. It's not that we're against projects, we just don't want to see the province losing money forever by being suckered into schemes that are losers. We're reading the business pages, we can see the writings on the wall. Canada wants to invest in the industries and technologies of the future. We don't want stranded carbon assets when the rest of the world is moving off fossil fuels. But letters to the editor, you've heard me say something like that, I'm sorry, but it really matters. Try to get something in the Globe and Mail, the National Post, the Toronto Star, Vancouver Sun, Times Colonist. If you put your mind to reading those papers and then try to think up a letter a week, you'll help educate the rest of Canada. Because honest to goodness, everybody in this room is a brain trust 10 times larger than everybody in Ottawa. Every single mandate letter to every single minister said no relationship is more important to us than the relationship with Indigenous people of Canada. We must enter into a new era of a respectful relationship, nation to nation. We must live up to the challenge of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which means, I think it was for Jack saying, we need a path of healing that's really deep, and it won't be one generation's work. But if we accept this challenge and we stay arm in arm in lockstep with First Nations across this country to protect what we love, we will win. Thank you.